Nature Cocktails about the game script. A huge victory. We could have these streams and we put our heads together. Get your balls, put them on the table. We are live. We are, in fact, live. Welcome back to the fifth installment, the first week coming to a close on Friday of the last call. Appreciate everybody dropping in, showing the love and support this week here. We've been averaging over 500 views per video, and means a ton for me to see you guys showing the respect and support, liking those videos, retweeting the YouTube promos, retweeting the Twitter promos. And, it's all about you guys and trying to build this pub sports ship. We got a ton of great coppers in the network and the enterprise here with Pub Sports. And I'm fortunate and privileged to be able to come at you guys live and share these looks. What a night we had last night. We'll get into the nitty gritty and the details. We're going to give everybody an opportunity to file in here. I appreciate you guys that are early arrivers here. Director 97's back. He says, pimp slap, the director's in the house. Appreciate you, Director 97. Nasty Nate. Mr. Trifecta says, senior night last home football game for my son. Let's go Mariners. Parlay Angel's out here as well. Real Deal Prime says, last call. Let's up Real Deal Prime. Appreciate everybody dropping in here. We're getting this plane launched. It's going to be a big night. We've got 4 major events in play. Of course, we've got the NBA. We're going to start with the NBA because there are some early spots tonight. We've got the NHL. We got a pretty good card in the NHL lined up tonight. I believe it's 6 games on deck. 1 college football game. We'll look at that game and talk a little bit more about those details. And of course, maybe you heard, maybe you haven't. There's a little game going on tonight called number 1 in the World Series. So lots of fun going on. Big card, lots of plays. You guys know the deal. I've got a ton of looks for you guys. I got a bunch of leans for you guys as well. Let's get in this thing and let's get it rolling here. Coin says, let's have a night. Mike and Chad, absolutely, Coin. Fletcher Barry's back. I appreciate you, Fletcher Barry, showing up here. There's our guy, Nunya, as well. Means a ton for you guys to be in here early and get ready to rock this card. We've got a ton to get through. We've got an hour to make sure that we get the plays out to you guys to launch this thing and get this card rolling tonight. Let's jump in here. And again, very important. Make sure you guys throw your plays out there in the chat. Love to see them. Love to talk about them. I tailed a couple of guys last night to put me on some winners as well. It was a big card, but there's always room for a couple more winners. And that's what we're getting into this evening. We'll kind of start with the recap here. Last night we had an 8-6 night on the card. Unfortunately, the birthday parlay did not come through, but as far as some fun and excitement, I was looking at this thing and thinking, what can we do on Fridays to mix it up here? We're in the plays, we're in the process, but why not have a Friday parlay? So I've got one for you guys tonight. It's a plus 450, a 4.5 to 1 return. It's a 3-teamer, and we'll make sure that we cover that and talk a little bit of why I like some of those spots here. As we look through this thing here, it was an 8-6 night on the main slate, but we also had a 10-4 night on the leans. And that's kind of giving me some pause here and thinking, man, we're killing it over there in the lean category. Let's try to figure out a way to incorporate more of those as we go here. We'll start off recapping the NHL. We lost that game with the Avalanche last night, probably in hindsight, versus Pittsburgh. It was time for them to take an L, and they certainly did. They were just down right off the gate in that game. Couldn't get anything going. Just a bad spot all around. The San Jose Sharks was a victory for us. The under 6.5. Nobody said it was going to be easy. I mean, that game was, thank goodness that San Jose stinks on offense, under 6.5 cash for us with a 6-0 final. Man, that was sweaty. I was not feeling good off the hop seeing a 3-0 start in that game. Minnesota took a loss. The St. Louis Blues game did not go over 6. The Rangers did get that victory for us, though, to bring off a close to the NHL card. The Bucks first half -3. Funny that we got that first half -3, but then they almost lost that game outright to the Sixers. We had the Lopez over 1.5 threes. That was a plus 150 spot out there. Virginia Tech made light work of the Orange. Got to get fired up for Blacksburg with Enter Sandman's plan. They came out early and often and covered quite a few spots for us there. Georgia State didn't get the job done, though. That was a disappointing spot. They were out of that thing right from the get-go, and that kind of seemed like the theme was either they got it done early and they were in this thing, or it was just completely lights out right from the get-go. And Georgia State was an even money play for us on the money line, but did not get the job done. In the NFL, we had a really good night in the NFL. We got that Bills teaser, -3.5 and the under 49.5. We got that first half spot at -4.5, went up to 5.5 and even 6s, but they covered that thing by a touchdown. We did not get the Laughlin kicks. We had 4 points total on a 5.5 spot. We talked about the parlay that we lost, but there's that guy Okogie there with the 9.5 points. Got an even 10 on the dot for a +106 spot to give us a net 1.85 units on the day. But we are now in the black again here. We're just under 1 unit positive through the first 4 shows. And then on the lean side of the house, it was a really strong night there. Winnipeg Jets got through for a victory. The Minnesota spot, remember that number was over after a team plays as a home dog versus previous game on Vegas. That over has been hitting at 19-6, I believe was the number. Minnesota Wild got that over for us. The Islanders came through with a big victory. Gave it out as well on a live spot to get that Islander spot. As soon as we gave it out there on the live stream, they came through and cashed. Calgary's first period over got the job done as well. Interesting that the game went under, but the first period got there with the over. I believe that's now 8 straight overs in Calgary in the first period. Zibanejad did not get the goal for us. That was a 3-0 game, low scoring all around. But Dame Lillard, and if you were watching Jimmy's show, I talked about how, man, this guy probably goes for 40 or more. He got 39 points last night. He easily covered that 26.5. We had the Anthony Davis, right? He did not show up for that game in Denver with the altitude, but he did show up last night with 22.5 points. We lost the ladder play with Okogie at 15+. That was a +550 shot, but we lost it. The Suns came back, and they were able to cover that spread at 6.5. Virginia Tech's first quarter -0.5 was a +115 winner. The over 47.5 was another lean. They ended at 48. That got the job done. Evans did not cover his 58.5 receiving yards in the leans. Bernard had 8 tackles, did not get the over 8.5, but there's Mr. Reliable, Josh Allen, even money to throw an interception, and we cashed that as well. So 10-4 day in the leans category. The leans this week are up almost 10 units, 9.47 units. Going to, again, factor in how to play these things as we move deeper down the shows and the stretch here. But you made it. We're at episode number 5. We just got through this recap. You guys make sure you like and retweet. Hit the thumbs up out there for the Twitter promo. And please make sure you guys like and thumbs up this YouTube video. Got to get out there. We're trying to break into this saturated sports content market here and trying to show at 6 p.m. No place else to be but the last call. So I appreciate everybody dropping in here. I see that we're starting to get the crew in here. We're up to almost 60 and growing here. Nunya says smash the like. You know it, Nunya. Appreciate it. Coin says hit the like button, PSR family, for our boy. I appreciate you, Coin. Mr. Always Profit. Anything for the Vegas NHL game starting right now? I took the under 6 because it was starting at 6, and we had to recap and get this show going here. It's not an official play for me, but I like that under 6. There's a big spot for Vegas to get this job over tonight. A lot of big trends on that Vegas over, but it's an early afternoon spot in Vegas against the Blackhawks who, just haven't been getting the job done. So Vegas coming off that big spot the other night was an over with the Flyers, but I kind of thought that here's a spot where this early afternoon kind of matinee lockdown in Vegas, that this is going to be an under spot. So we'll see how that kind of moves on through the evening here. T-Mac says, what up, Pimp? What up, T-Mac? JPZ up in the house. Appreciate you, my guy. And we are rolling forward here. Again, guys, make sure you throw those plays out there in the chat. I'll make sure to cover them as much as we can and kind of keep an eye on them for you guys here as we advance through the shows. I want to certainly highlight those that give out them winners. Stacks POD's out there. He says Duran over 26.5 points, rebounds, and assists at +120. 88 and 89 record. This guy is creeping and on his way to not just a positive record, but showing positive units as well. Appreciate you putting the plays out there, Justin, my guy. All righty, let's get this thing rolling here. You guys will see T, our guy, our producer, on the ones and twos, doing the bang-up job that he always does. I appreciate him being back there, having my back, helping us make sure that we get these numbers tight and right for the crew. We're going to dive right into this NBA. You'll kind of see the breakdown of the games here. You go full screen, you will certainly see what those look like and kind of going through some of those splits and details. I'm not here to cover every single game. I had a whole bunch of looks, but there's going to be some spots that I just don't end up on. So we're going to jump right in here with this first game being the Detroit Pistons at the Charlotte Hornets. Of course, the Hornets coming off a big game the other night there. Took down them Atlanta Hawks, back-to-back home spots for these guys as well. 16% of the bets, 23% of the money on them Hornets. 64% of the bets, 87% of the cash on the under. And kind of the flip side of things here, 43% of the bets, 73% of the money on the Pistons. Maybe they like what they saw there that last game where they almost took down the Miami Heat. It was a 1-point finish. Did not get the job done, but did cover that 9.5 that we had in those leans. A couple plays that I dropped in here and kind of where I was going with this thing. First and foremost, I like this under spot. It's a low number at 226.5, but we're seeing the cash coming in. The sharper money says this under. And by the way, when Charlotte is favored after they were a dog of less than 8 points, they're going under 13 straight times, 13-0 to the under. They're going under by almost 8 points. It's a low number, but I think it's a low number for a reason. We saw when the NBA started here that there was a lot of 235s that first kind of 2 nights there. There was a lot of uncertainty about where these totals were going to end up. And I think when you start seeing 226.5, they are showing their hand for a reason. Again, Charlotte, when they're favored after a dog spot of less than 8 points, 13-0 to the under. 2 spots there, and I kind of have one of them that kind of correlates with our guy Stacks here, where I was looking at that Duren over 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists is minus 130. I believe our guys got it at 24.5 to make it plus money, 26.5 to make it even bigger plus money. So we're certainly on the same page there. That's an official lean for me. The official plays in this game are the under 226.5 at minus 112. And then I've got the Duren over 10.5 rebounds. And I got that at plus 106. So it's kind of one of the numbers that you need if you're going to get that spot there, Justin, with the PRA situation. But, and I looked at this thing and I kind of broke down the play. Duren ended last season with double-digit rebounds in 5 of his last 8 games. In fact, in those 8 games, he had a 14 spot and an 18 spot. And the thing about that is there was uncertainty. They had James Wiseman out there. He was a guy that was playing a lot of minutes, kind of competing for that spot with Duren, and he was able to kind of win that out. Wiseman's not in the factor here. And what did he do last game against the Miami Heat? He squared up against none other than Bam Adebayo. He had a 32-minute game. He put up 14 rebounds in that situation. So big spot here. I thought the other thing here is I looked at it is Charlotte's given up more rebounds than any other team last year. They were certainly number 1 ranked in the rebound game. And if you want to look at this last game and what happened with those Atlanta Hawks, Clint Capella goes out there, plays 29 minutes, and gets himself 13 rebounds. So to get that plus money spot with a 10.5 on Duren, to me, just felt like the right spot to be. That's an official play. So the under and the rebounds, I kind of think those correlate too. Like we're not going to see, if he's getting the rebounds out there, that should help keep that pace maybe a little bit lower, keep that score down. And we are off. We've got the first official spot on the card, launched and ready to roll. We're going to move into game number 2. Game number 2 is going to feature this Nuggets team on the road after that big game opening banner-raising victory. They're going on the road to the Memphis Grizzlies, a team that we faded last game as well. We've got 89% of the bets and 96% of the cash on them Nuggets. The line is kind of ping-ponging between 5s and 6s. So I locked in 5. Minus 5 is the number. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But we do have a lot of money coming in on that money line as well. Look, I get it. Like the 5, the 6, you don't want to play around with that. But I'm not in the business of laying minus 250s and trying to get that cash. For me, I'll take the 5. I'll take my shot with that minus 5. And I kind of looked at this number and thought, well, why is it kind of the size that it is, right? It seems like, maybe it's a little short. And I started thinking, are they trying to play games with us and where they want this money to fall? Well, anybody that's anybody, and we talked about this last game, anybody that's anybody knows, the Memphis Grizzlies last year at home, such a dominant team. They had a great run. I want to say they were like 15 or 16 in a row at one point. They could not lose. No Ja Morant. That's a big deal. That's a top 5 guard getting knocked out of their lineup. And what did we see that happened there when they played the Pelicanos the last game is the Pelicanos were a +1, even some +2s, and they ended up winning the game by 7. In fact, not only did they win by 7, they had 20 turnovers in that game. I mean, they couldn't play any more sloppy, and they were still able to coast to a victory. Now you got the world champs coming in. They got a bigger team. They got a deeper bench and a better coach. To me, this is a great opportunity at this minus 5. Minus 5.5 is the number that's out there now. I would lock that in. A couple other spots that I looked at. I had to back away from the first half. Originally, I was looking at minus 2.5s. I saw minus 3.5s and even minus 4s. Did not want to jump in and mess with that. I just thought, you know what? I'm going to just be simple with this game. I've got a big enough card tonight as it is. And give me them Denver Nuggets at minus 5 was the official at minus 110. It's since moved. I also like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope 3-point spot for him, over 1.5 3-pointers. He's the guy that should be shooting those buckets, minus 115. That's a lean that I have on there, as well as his rebounds, over 2.5 on his rebounds at minus 127, another lean. So, if you're one of those players that likes to kind of parlay together or try same game opportunities, I want to make sure I share some of these leans by game, because one of my most profitable same game parlay situations last year was in the NBA. So I'll talk a little bit about other players I think make sense. They're not going to necessarily be leans in this case here, but I like Michael Porter Jr. over 2.5 threes. He was a minus 125 spot. And then, of course, Gordon at 13.5 points was another guy that just missed the card for me. I was more comfortable saying, I'm going to lean to the KCP threes and the rebounds, but I like that Denver Nuggets minus 5 spot. All right. We roll on. The train is moving down the tracks. You'll see in the graphics here. What I'm trying to show you guys is this parlay of the day, and we will talk about that to recap this thing off. But our next spot that we're going to jump into is a big game. I know there's a lot of excitement out there for this game right now. The Heat versus the Celtics, a playoff rematch. Them Heat are angry. They're not happy. They even, kind of maybe had that look ahead last game where they ended up winning against Detroit by 1 point. They were leading so confidently and dominantly throughout the game. But then what happened is they kind of took their foot off the gas. Maybe they started thinking ahead to this Boston Celtics spot. 68% of the bets, 73% of the cash on the Celtics minus 8.5. 71% of the bets, 96% of the cash on the under. Expecting a low-paced game. 96% is just not a spot that I want to mess around with when it comes to the NBA. 7% of the bets, 54% of the cash saying, hey, the Heat money line's live here. It's a good spot. It's over a 200 number. In fact, let me pull it up. We'll take a look here. When you look at this game and you look at that money line for the Heat, plus 290 spot is crazy, and that number's moved from plus 160 to plus 290. There's some sharp bettors, some smart money potentially coming in and saying the Heat are live to get this game done. I don't know if I'm going to go that far. What I do like here in this game is I like Jaylen Brown's spot for over 19.5 points. That's my official play for this game. I want to make sure I touch this game and get some action in it because it's going to be a game that I got my eye on from a television side of things. Two other leans that I looked at for this game: Boston in the first half minus 4.5. And I was looking at kind of a small ladder for Jaylen Brown to get 25 or more points at plus 280 is another lean that I'm looking at there. Why Jaylen Brown? Well, he had a poor night last night against the Knicks. He only put up 11 points. He shot poorly from the field at 4 for 11. Big moves and big changes on this Boston Celtics lineup, right? They bring in Porzingis. They bring in Drew Holiday. And the big thing for Porzingis was it was a revenge spot there. When he goes to the Garden, he knows what the situation is. That's a team that he used to play for. And what did he do? He showed up and he showed out. He was banging threes from all over the court. He was even making some from the parking lot, it looked like, out there. So, I kind of expected that to be a down spot for Brown and Tatum and the fellas. They barely covered that spread with the last 10 seconds of that game. But why did I go to Jaylen Brown here? Because I think this matchup is clearly it's a Tatum spot, right? Tatum's the guy for Boston. Miami knows what happened when they didn't guard Tatum last year. He went off on him in those playoffs. And so I think they're going to have to man up here on Tatum. They're going to have to make sure they put one of their best guys. I expect Tyler Hero to be the guy matched up against Tatum. And in this case here, as I look back at it, and I think, all right, well, we talked about Porzingis. Porzingis just had that big game against the Knicks. You always want to feed your new guys and make them happy and put them in spots where they can build their confidence. That was that checkbox for me when it came to Porzingis. Now, Drew Holiday is another guy that certainly is capable of gobbling up some balls and some time on the clock. But, Brown in his last 4 seasons has been averaging 20 points per game. Last year, he actually upped that to 26.6 points, which is a career high for him that season. Now, coming off that low spot at 11 points, they pegged this number right at his season-long average last year. I felt like I had to jump in there. 19.5 is the average number for him. Coming off that kind of down spot out there, he also hit this number 20 points or more in 14 of 20 games against Miami that he's played them in the last couple of seasons. In those Miami games where he went over, he was averaging 23.3 shot. So 23.3 average against the guy that the team is familiar with, Miami Heat. Probably not going to get the most strength of looks there because they're going to have Hero matched up against Tatum. I love that 19.5 spot, and I'm leaning to that 25 points plus because he's averaging 23.3, and he could very well go off here to push that average up. If you're 2 games into the season, you got 11 in your first game, you got to go out there for maybe 30 in this game, or at least 28 to kind of push that number up and carry that season-long average. Not just a season-long average last year, but his career-long average of 20 points. Big numbers to take a look at, and I like that they pegged that number right there. On we go. NBA, you guys will see the layout that T set up for us on the right-hand side. You will see the games and where we're covering here. We're 3 deep in the association. We're going to talk about this next game here. I ultimately didn't pull the trigger on this game. I wanted to. I was so close, and I had it kind of highlighted as a game that I wanted to go back to. But a couple of factors that shot me off of this thing here. So this Raptors-Bulls spot, 69% of the bets, 82% of the cash on the -2.5. And when you look at that 2.5, we've seen really not much movement at all. In fact, now the splits are starting to move a little bit the other direction from when we kind of printed this information and material to today. Right now, we see a 70% of the bet, 66% of the cash. We're starting to see some numbers moving on that Raptor side of things. But the big thing for me is that line's not moving. So Chicago Bulls spot for me, questionable. If you look at the totals, you look at the under in this case started at 218. It's down to 216.5. Recent splits here, 38% of the bets, 51% of the cash on the under. So they're certainly seeing those bigger bets coming in on the under, and Vegas is kind of responding accordingly, moved that down 1.5. That as far as the money line. The money line was the spot that I was going to jump into. That's my lean for this game with the Bulls. But then I started thinking to myself, this is probably some trickery for me. If I'm not confident enough to pull the trigger on the 2, and then the money line kind of concerns me. I looked at the cash, 82% of the bets, 77% of the money on the Chicago Bulls money line. It opened at -155 the other day. It's down to -134. Kind of scared me. If you guys have been following the beat reporters or any of the information on social media, you know that after game 1, what did Chicago do? That evening, they called a players-only meeting. I don't know what the hell is going on in Chicago, but you can't be calling a players-only meeting after the first game. That's like a players-only moment is when your team that maybe starts out hot, and then kind of goes on a 4 or 5 game slump where they're starting to believe what they're reading about themselves in the newspaper. Then you call the players-only meeting. To do it after the first game of the season was a huge, huge red flag for me. A couple thoughts there that kind of pushed me toward that Chicago side, at least to make it an official lean here, is Toronto Raptors. 0-9 straight up and against the spread, losing by 9 points on average when they're on the road after they held their opponent to 105 points that previous game. Then if you dig that down even further, if they held them down to less than 100, that number goes to 0-11-1. So 12.79 is that margin of victory for the opponents that Toronto's playing that next game. 12.79 points in the margin of victory. I like the Bull spot. I'm leaning there. I just once bitten, twice shy. At the end of the day for me, I live bet the Bulls when they were down that last game too. And, early in the season, I'm certainly not trying to get too invested in trying to live bet and chase a spot. I thought the Bulls would be the right play. And, they just weren't. They just were not the right play. And that's all I have to say about that. On to the next one. We're going to keep it rolling here. We've got 23 minutes into the show. We've got 100 people watching. Please make sure you hit that like button. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn that bell on for notifications when this show goes live. You will not miss it. You will hear it. You will see it. You will know we are rolling because it's 6 p.m. It's the last call. It's Pub Sports Radio. Also, guys, if you haven't already, I see quite a few folks in the green. If you like what you're hearing out here, if you like the shows and the content we're putting out there, please become members of the Pub Sports Radio community. $4.99 a month, marginal from what we're going to give you guys in terms of content and delivering winners, live bet streams as well. But it helps us a ton. It shows that you guys really appreciate what we're doing out there. And I appreciate everybody dropping in here. So we will keep it moving right along here. Next game on the card for me to take a look at. I looked at this Nets and Mavericks spot. A lot of people talking about Wemby and what he did that last game. And probably, in my opinion, a little less than an ideal situation from his opening debut. But what I did like here is I like Derek Lively on his over 6.5 rebounds. It's a lean. It's another lean for me, but it's a play I wanted to share with you guys because when this team's out there, what happened last season here, they've got, first and foremost, Nick Claxton's out for the Nets. That's an official out. He's got Ben Simmons out there kind of matching up against him. And, I just don't think Ben Simmons has a ton of heart, especially early in the season. For me, maybe he's going to step up halfway through and then the latter part of the season as they try to make a playoff push. But I just like this matchup a lot. And, even though Lively came off the bench last game, he ended up outproducing Max Kleber for 31 minutes to 23 minutes. So he earned his playing time. And what did he do that game? He had 16 points, 10 rebounds, and 1 assist. It was a double-double for this guy to open the season off as a young buck out there trying to make a name for himself. So at 6.5 on the rebound factor, to me, just a lean, but a game I wanted to make sure I touched and kind of gave you guys at least a look that I felt pretty comfortable with in that game. Well, I get there at the end of it. Maybe we got quite a bit of time before that game kicks off, so we'll see how that progresses. On our way. Again, you guys will see we had a nice positive day yesterday. We're going to keep it rolling, try to give you guys quite a few spots tonight. Next game, this is a spot that I like quite a bit. It's kind of a low-key Clippers Jazz spot. Now, I opened up the season with the Clippers under, and, they got me. But, that game went over. And it was like even in the fourth quarter, they were still showing some numbers. We had 226.5, I believe was the number. Even in the fourth quarter, they were showing 223.5. So I felt comfortable with I didn't feel comfortable, but I was okay with where the number was and what we had for that total. And it didn't get there. In fact, at the end of the game, it skyrocketed over. It went over by almost, I think, 10 points at the end of the day. But in this case here, new game, Clippers on the road against the Jazz, 44% of the bets, 58% of the cash on the Jazz, 4.5 is the number that we're seeing out there. I'm just trying to toggle between the recent splits out here so that I can give you guys more accurate information as far as how the line's moving. With all that Jazz money, we're not really seeing a ton of movement out there now. What we see on the underside of things, though, is probably a little more eye-opening. We've got 61% of the bets, 70% of the cash on the under, bigger bets coming in on that under, and Vegas has responded in kind. We're seeing 228's the best number you can get right now, but a lot of 227.5s and even some 227s out there. So if you're looking at this game, I certainly can side with you if you're thinking about the under. The official play I had to go with here was our guy Kawhi Leonard, though. Over 2.5 3-pointers, and it's a plus 126 spot. I love them player props when they're plus money. You certainly won't see me dumping a lot of minus 150s. In fact, I did it once with baseball a couple games ago, and I got bit by it. I think it was the outs for I can't remember who it was on the Philadelphia Phillies, I believe, and didn't come through for me. And it was like a minus 154 or something like that. It's just against my better judgment, against everything that I believe in. I did it anyways, and I took the L for it. But in this case here with Kawhi Leonard, what do I like about Kawhi Leonard? Well, look what he did his last game. He was playing, in a spot where, again, I thought that game was going to go under. What did he do? He went out there. He went 5 for 5. He went 100% from beyond the arc. He got himself a huge day out there. He had a ton of points on the board as well. And if you look at it, he's gone 3 or more threes in 6 of his last 7 games. So coming off a 5 spot, is averaging 5 attempts in those 7 games. Kawhi Leonard over 2.5 3-pointers at plus 126. Lock me down, put it on my card. It's an official play. I'm excited to watch that. At least I'll probably box score watch that one a little bit because there's going to be some other games that have my attention. But Kawhi Leonard over 2.5 threes. Want to make sure that we lock that one in there. I love that play from a prop perspective. That's probably my favorite play. We'll continue to advance around the card, but I think that's my favorite play today. I love the number. I love the opportunity as well. So onward and upward, our next game in the roster, we're going to talk about this Golden State Sacramento Kings game. Right now, the splits, we've got 82% of the bets, 98% of the cash, minus 2.5 is the number that's out there. We're now starting to see some threes and even 3.5s. So we've seen some considerable movement with all that cash dumping in on the Sacramento Kings. 41% of the bets and 95% of the cash on the over. Big red flag for me is that over hasn't moved. If anything, it's gone down a half a point to a point. So I did see some considerable trends saying that Golden State off a game that goes under and took a loss goes over significantly the next game by like 15, 20 points. But I'm going to try to keep my eyes on a live bet for this spot here. I did see a 237.5 out there. We'll talk about the money real quick here as well. 27% of the bets and 40% of the cash on the Golden State Warriors money line. Again, we're not seeing any kind of concern or reaction from Vegas in this number here. The line opened at plus 100. It's moved to plus 130. As I look at this game here, I think that the big factor, Draymond Green being out of there and the turnovers and the changes that they made in their roster, they just played like shit that last game. Tons of turnovers, a lot of missed shots, poor shooting from the field. Granted, yeah, it's the first game of the season, but I think the Draymond Green miss is a lot bigger than maybe is being let on here. So did I ultimately want to pull the trigger? I've got 2 leans on this game. I've got the Kings minus 2.5 as a lean. I was going to go official with it, but you guys will see in the parlay spot that I did get a touch on this game. Also, I like that over 237.5 as a lean. My strategy simply is going to be to live bet this thing here. I think again, we see that 55 or 58. We'll set this number at 58. If that first quarter is under 58, I want to jump in and live bet that thing. I'd like to see that number be more towards like a 230, 229.5. I don't know that we see that entirely, but that's the price that's going to get me excited and get me to drop some money on the live spot there. So trying to share with you guys what I'm looking at from the strategy perspective, because live betting is a huge part, especially in the NBA when these teams go on 10-point swings like it's crazy. Then you want to make sure that you're in the right spots for those games. But I just talked about, the Draymond Green factor and how poorly they played. Something to consider yourselves or concerns yourself with. We heard about this earlier in the week when it comes to the Lakers starting a season. Well, guess who does poorly when they start a home opener for the season? The Sacramento Kings. Now, I think the Kings are, much better team in this case here. I think Golden State's on the downtick. You can't continue to make a championship run 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons in a row without taxing your guys. They're playing an extra quarter of a season plus than the rest of the competition. And this is just going to wear this team down. And I think we're seeing that out of Golden State. I expect them to have a tough start the first quarter of the season. Maybe they'll get it together and get some opportunities out there as a dog. But the one thing that concerned me is the Sacramento Kings. 8 of 9 home openers have been losses in the last 9 seasons for that team. Not a spot you want to necessarily be, but that's why they're just leans for me. I do have a money line play that I jumped in on for the parlay. And then another lean that I have for you guys in this spot here is I like the Aaron Fox. I like this over 1.5 threes. It's moved up to minus 130. When I started putting this together, it was sitting at minus 125. Minus 130 is just a little beyond that point that I want to strike on it. But why do I like that spot? Because I think it's just it's a bounce back spot for him. Last game, he only got 1 3-pointer. He did shoot 7 times, which is significant. The volume that we see out there out of this guy. And from a shot perspective, he was on the road. So now you're bringing him back home where he's going to be more familiar with the sight lines. That's a big factor when it comes to these guys shooting. You're on the road. You're shooting 7 times. You only make 1. Your averages show that you're more consistent and better than that. Also, this is a revenge spot from the playoffs previous year. So I think that's a lot of motivation. It's one of those things that, how do you quantify it? How do you move it to the number? I just look at all those factors. You got the visuals and the sight lines. He's now home where he's familiar with the routine, the pregame warm-ups, everything that goes into it. Couple that with the revenge spot and coming off a poor performance, I think it's a great opportunity to get to De'Aaron Fox, and I might actually make that official. He had 32 minutes his last game. The guy's getting the minutes. He's getting the time. He's getting the looks. He just didn't get the buckets last game, and I think that this price is kind of appropriately sized based on measuring the performance that he had. I'm just looking at this live bet and coming. I'm going to have to turn this damn thing over. Man, 2-1 now in that Chicago game. It looks like I should not have doubted the trend. That spot was like, I want to say there was like a 19 spot to the over. It is what it is. Take a look here at the chat. Director 97 says, so far, my favorite pick is the Nuggets -5. I like that one a lot too, Director 97. Nathan Cerna, I like to smack them in the mouth type of approach from VGK. Yeah, this team's not messing around, man. 2-1. A lot of action came in on the Chicago Blackhawks, but it is what it is. Craig Wood says, like the beam. AOD likes the Cade Cunningham over 29 points and assists. I like that look. Detroit basketball. Coin says Utah under 227 and Utah +4.5. I think that's probably going to be a nice little plus money spot. Big Scott 510 says, got a 3-leg parlay. Let's hear it. Here it is. Doug, Denver Nuggets money line. He likes the Heat +10. He's buying 2 points. And then Blues, I'm assuming, is the St. Louis Blues in that spot. Definitely a wiry team there, the St. Louis Blues, that came out and got that win the other night and managed to keep the score off the board. So Andrew G says, yo, what up, Andrew G? Rocco Rogers, I like his boards too. Just threw a little on the prop parlay. I think we're talking about that previous game. And Justin says the wine time, he hates being on the other side. So we got a little inner squabble rivalry. Now 2-2. I can't look at that anymore. I got to move on here. Back to this NBA card. We've got one last game in the NBA. It's the Magic at the Trail Blazers. And what a game. What a spot. The Trail Blazers getting 9.5, even 10 points, miserably failing at stopping the team, stopping the Clippers. They just couldn't get the job done one way, shape, or form. That game sailed over. They got crushed. Not a good spot for the Blazers. On the flip side of things, the Magic had a great game. Big victory for those guys kind of starting the season off here. We look at the splits. We've got 78%. It's now 84% of the bets, 89% of the cash on the Magic side. My concern there is we're not seeing a lot of line movement. We're not seeing a lot of concern from the books. Originally, I was going to lean to the Magic -2. I know it's moved to 3.5. But it's kind of been sitting at 3.5. We're starting to see some fours tick out there. It's only got 25,000 tickets in the sample. I say only. I know that's a considerable amount, but some of these games have 50,000, 92,000, $89,000, $71,000. So there's still some time for this game that's going to tee off. It's 10 p.m. East Coast time, 7 p.m. out there on the West Coast. Plenty of time to see how this number is going to continue to marinate. But one of the spots that I looked at for an official lean for me, I had to look at the Markelle Fultz over 5.5 assists. This is just simply a stats and matchup spot. It's a plus 106 spot for Markelle Fultz over 5.5 assists. What has Markelle Fultz done? He's gone 7 or more each of the last 3 games that he's played the Trailblazers. So when I talk about the matchup spot here, we got a motivated team in the Magic playing hard that first game of the season. I don't want to completely overreact. Do I think they should be a favorite? I do. Is the number a little high? I feel it is. But, I like that lean to Fultz. And depending on how the evening kind of goes along here in the association, I may pull the trigger on that thing and make that an official play. If I do, I will tweet it out. If any of my leans go official, make sure you guys are following me on Twitter, because I will make sure to include, the Pub Sports tweet in there, the handle as well. I'll tag the last call, and you guys will see any live plays, any last minute adjustments or changes that I've made to my card. We cover these games. I start putting it together in the afternoon. We launch at 6 p.m. Eastern, but there's still 4 hours plus in some of these games before they tip off. And some late minute news injuries, results can come in there and sway my thinking. So I wanted to get to something fun here on Friday. Little fun Friday. I'm going to make sure that we incorporate the opportunity for a parlay every Friday. We're going to see if we can't stack this thing up and get some quick units, some big cash to move our bankrolls. It's a 3-legger for me, and it's strictly focused in the association. Look, I took Atlanta, the Hawks off that bad spot. Yeah, they got the Knicks coming to town. The Knicks always find a way to play them tough. But, as I looked at the cash flow here, the Knicks went from dog to favorite. So, yeah, 75% of the bet, 75% of the cash on that money line for the Knicks to move them that 20 cents from a plus 110 to a minus 110. I just feel it's a motivation spot. The Hawks coming off that loss, not happy about the way they performed against Charlotte. And, Trae Young owns the New York Knicks. So do I think he's a guy that can go out there and produce? I don't have him listed in any prop spots. It's just kind of my hunch tells me he's got to be the leader of that team. They got to bounce back here. Atlanta's got big expectations this year. We did talk about them having a new coach and a new system, but it's really now it's really kind of 1.5 years in now. It's the start of the first full season, but we know that the coach took over a little over halfway last season. So the Atlanta Hawks is the first leg of the parlay. The second leg of the parlay, the Sacramento Kings on the money line. I don't like that movement. I'm not trying to be puss safe and drop a minus 143 money line, although I could certainly appreciate anybody that wants to go that direction. I just had to take the Kings here at home. I know we talked about the home opener. I'm just not happy with what I'm seeing out of Golden State. Leg number 2 is the Sacramento Kings. And then the third leg here to close it out. Again, I don't want to take this big juice. I don't want to even take the minus 155, but I got the Orlando Magic on the money line. Look, the Trailblazers stink. I'll stand behind it. We'll see how this works out for us tonight, but it's a 3-legger in the association. Atlanta Hawks, Sacramento Kings, and the Orlando Magic. You guys, if you're going to use this as a basis, as a front line or a starting point, I'd love to hear how you guys want to tweak this thing and evolve this parlay. If you're going to do any components or any pieces of it and move it along the way, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to see you guys win big with me. And certainly if you've got those plays or you want to share them out there, then please do so. Perky Sanderson says, Max play alert, Denver Nuggets minus 3.5. The Denver Nuggets minus 3.5. Huh? Is that line dropped, or are you buying points on that one? Because I like it. The Nuggets at minus 5 was the spot for me. Unless you're talking about the first half, maybe. I see some 3.5s and some 3s out there on the first half. But I didn't get there officially on that first half, just a lean for me. Fat Cat Ninja says, facts at Proof Bets. Nunya, Hawks money line, $200 bet for him. And he plans on doubling down if they go down early. That's what I'm thinking. It's just a motivation spot here where you got to try to figure out who's trying to play and when. And to me, it feels like it's just that motivation for the Hawks tonight. Proof Bet says live bets are bread and butter. Absolutely, man. That's where you can either fix a bad spot. I know some guys that just have the exclusive strategy that they only want to live bet. I'm more of a bettor that wants to get in there early. I want to have a pregame play and then use course correction if I'm seeing something that's glaringly obvious for the rest of the game. Or flip side of things, if I take a side, I'll live bet the total. Or if I take a total, I might live bet the side. But that's okay. We're rolling along here. We just covered the association. I gave you guys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. I broke down 8 games there that I like, including the plus 450 parlay. We're going to transition. We've got 20 minutes till first puck drop. Get myself a little wah-wah on our way here. We got the NHL, the National Hockey League, big Friday night. I like that they put a pretty good sized card together too. They had a lot of games going the other day, big frozen frenzy. Then they kind of sloped off. Last night was a pretty large card as well. But tonight we've got 6 games out there, and you'll see some of the breakdowns out here. Now, the first game was that Vegas game that's already started, so we're going to move past that one. I'm just going to try to move pretty quickly here for you guys to keep things rolling. We look at this first game that I'm talking about here. It's going to be the Minnesota Wild at the Washington Capitals. You'll see the play on the screen. You'll see kind of some of the reasoning behind it here. I'll talk a little bit about the splits, but again, we're going to probably phase that out here as the season goes along because it doesn't seem to make a ton of sense. Although in this case, we have 63% of the bets now, 82% of the cash. It's gone from minus 110 to minus 125 on the Capital side of the house. The Minnesota Wild, kind of a reeling team. They're missing Matt Boldy. That's a big offensive point production guy for this team. It is Marc-Andre Fleury versus Kumper. But for me, I just think that Matt Boldy miss is a bigger deal than potentially letting on. They beat the Oilers 2 games back, but the Oilers are missing, Connor McDavid. So is that big a victory? And then they got beat down by the Flyers, who I just think are not a strong Flyers team here. In fact, they were a small dog, but they got whooped on. They lost 6-2. The Capitals on the other side of things. You know what? They just had that huge win. We gave that out the other night at I think it was plus 215 spot for the Washington Capitals. We got Ovechkin on the board against Toronto, and then Ovechkin on the board again against New Jersey. And that was a big goal to kind of put the dagger in those guys and kind of put the nail in the coffin. So big spot for the Capitals tonight. Let's talk a little bit about the breakdown for this game as well. Small away dogs in the NHL when they're coming off a game that they had 1 or fewer power play goals. Certainly fits the Minnesota Wild criteria tonight. Small away dogs described as a team or defined as a team between 100 and plus 130. So an even money to a plus 130 spot. Anything larger than plus 130, you guys will hear me talk about, is going to be kind of more of that moderate sized favorite. A moderate sized favorite I'll define as a team, or a dog rather. Any team that goes from like minus 135 to minus 200, if they're a moderate dog, they're going to be, in a situation where they're plus 135 to like plus 185 or so, as the number that we're going to use to define that. But small away dogs in this situation with 1 power play goal or less are 4-17 straight up. I think, this loss of Boldy on the offense is going to wreak havoc on their ability to produce points. We're seeing that they're not scoring goals. We're also seeing that the Capitals kind of found that rhythm with Ovechkin hitting the scoreboard. Now they're back at home. It's a big Friday night. The only advantage I think that the Minnesota Wild have is Marc-Andre Fleury. He's 4-0 in his last 4 Caps games. He's averaging 91% save percentage and 2.93 goals against average. I originally was going to lock down a under as a lean for this game, but I just kind of thought, it's Friday night. I want to see some scoring. I know the crowd wants to see some scoring. It's going to be loud and ruckus, and I'm going to take that Washington Capital side of things on the money line and move on to the next game. How that sound? It sounds fine to me. Let's go. Game number 2 we're going to talk about here. It's just a lean for me, this game, but a compelling number that I had to jump out at. You're going to hear this stat. It's applicable for 3 teams tonight. But if we look at the splits, start off with the splits in this game. We've got the Buffalo Sabres traveling on the road downstate and across the border into New Jersey. What are we seeing with this game? We're seeing that the opening line for the Sabres was plus 160. It's moved to plus 165. 29% of the bets, 78% of the cash are buying in on this Buffalo Sabres team that can't put pucks in the net. God bless you if that's going to be the direction you move. But, when we look at the total's opened at 7. We're starting to see some downtick to 6.5s out there. 41% of the bets and 58% of the cash on that under. So they're seeing that 7 and they're recognizing that it's a potential opportunity for the under. Again, the Sabres just aren't a scoring team. They just don't generate a lot of offense. The caveat for here and why it's a lean for me is the Devils have gone over every single game this season. They've managed to go over their totals of 5.5, 6.5, and now we're seeing a 7. I don't know. There's a trend that I had from last season, and I'll kind of track it this year. And as it starts to pop off, I'll make sure I share it with you guys. But the totals at 7 were a lot of pushes last year or unders. In fact, I want to say they were only going over 25% of the time. So with that 7 and the lean for me, I certainly had to take advantage or at least kind of highlight that spot. Another number you're going to hear, and again, it's applicable for 3 teams tonight. Or 3 games tonight, home favorites, after their opponent comes off a game where they hit 15 or more times that previous game, are going 20-12 straight up. They're 8-21-3 to the under. The average total that they're generating in results is 6.4 goals, and that trend is on a 5-game run to the under. It kind of lost a little traction at the end of last season, but then as this season got going, boom, it's gone 5 straight unders in a row. and very much applicable for this game. So think about the context of that. If you're a team that's, 15 hits, is that a lot of hits? Not really, but you're just not rolling over playing possum here. What's happening is you kind of physically abuse yourselves and beat yourselves up. And now you're going on the road to play a team that's a favorite at home. You're losing those games. Again, 20-12. But what's really happening, and to me, as I kind of looked at the bigger picture here, is the under. You're kind of exhausted. You're taxed. Now you're traveling, and you're just not finding a way to get the pucks in the net. Maybe you lost a little rhythm from the hits. Maybe you outplayed yourself physically, and you need to reset and recalibrate. Either way, we're seeing a big run on the unders. Couple that with that trend that I talked about in the NHL. The under 7 for me is a lean for me officially in this game. Onward and upward. We're rolling. The next game we're going to talk about here is this San Jose Sharks game. You know what? We took them last night with the under, and man, they played so poorly that they cashed the under for us here. The Sharks got Kakkonen starting in goal, an 0-2 Kakkonen, and the Hurricanes have Rantanen, at 1-1. We got 5% of the bets, 51% of the cash on the Sharks plus 1.5. I don't know what they're thinking. Maybe it's some of the injuries and the lack of chemistry that the Hurricanes have going right now. I think they get it right and they figure it out. But should the Sharks at plus 1.5 be a team that I would want to get on? Absolutely not. 66% of the bets, 93% of the cash on the under. Hockey's a little different for me when it comes to those splits because I think that sharp money is saying under. And I like it. 8% of the bets, 18% of the cash on the Sharks. So the line, the line is getting pounded by, big bettors looking to take advantage of a minus 400 Carolina Hurricanes. That just screams to me recipe for disaster. But the under 6.5, again, this is that situation where you have a home favorite. After your opponent has 15 or more hits the previous game, they're 20-12, but they're 8-21-3 to the under. So keep our eyes this season long on that teams that go with the 15 hits or more. We're on that 5-0 run to the under. We have the lean and play for the Devils, but the official play for me, San Jose under 6.5. Got to take advantage of that spot here. San Jose, we saw it last night. Maybe they were saving themselves for this game. I don't think that's the case, but that could very well be a situation that plays out tonight. We'll see how it evolves. Taking a look at the chat, Nathan Cerner says LFG Vegas. Let's get that money. Nathan Cerner says 7-0. Money on the Blackhawks to come back. Damn, Vegas to pull out the Arsenal, says Nathan Cerna. Kirk Gray, welcome to the chat. Kirk Gray says Rockets money line. JPZ, Nuggets are -6 now. Yeah, I think I'm glad I put that in before the show because I would love to have the 5 and not the 6. North Ender says Memphis Nuggets under 222. Perky Sanderson, I am drinking some lean. EQ says LFG Sabres. North Ender, I don't want to lay juice with the Caps, although I think they win here tonight. -125 is not a ton of juice, man. It's reasonable. And some of these hot baseball plays out there at -150s and 60s, just spots I couldn't get on, but we're going to keep it rolling here. Coin says, like Washington first period puck line at +175. Love the plus money spot, and I think that they're just in a buy situation here versus what they're seeing out there on the other side of the puck. So we'll keep it rolling. Next game up for us. We're going to keep this train rolling down the tracks. We're getting that much closer. We got 12 minutes till 7. We got to wrap this NHL card up. I still got to talk to you guys a little bit about Major League Baseball. Starts at 8 p.m. And we're going to talk about this college football game as well. This is a pimp slap play of the day that I gave out on Jimmy the Bag show earlier today. I took the over, first period over for the Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver situation, this is short and sweet and to the point. Although this does qualify for that full game under trend when the team has 15 or more hits. This is that third game that I talked to you guys about. It is Binnington tonight, who's been playing well against, Thatcher Demko, who's 2-2. 26% of the bets, 37% of the cash on that Blues puck line, getting the puck in a half. That's going to be juicy. 45% of the bets, 60% of the cash on the under, and 22% of the bets, 40% of the money on that Blues money line. I can't be mad at anybody that wants to jump in on that Blues spot, but the 5 of the last 6 games for the Canucks have gone over the first period number at 1.5. 5 of 6. Only one didn't. And what happened that next game? They put in 2 goals right off the hop of that second period. So you got a situation where it's 5 of 6 have gone over. The one spot that didn't, they came right out and fired that next game. Over first period, 1.5 goals, -125 is an official play for me. Last hockey game we're going to talk about here. We'll keep it rolling, keep the train moving down the tracks. This is going to probably be one that's got a lot of debate. I don't think there's any room for debate. I'm going to tell you guys exactly why I'm on the LA Kings. First of all, if you know a little bit about the chemistry of young hockey players, they are fired up, man. They are not only do they have smoke shows on their arms, but they like to go out and they like to party. And where's this Arizona game? Where's Arizona got their stadium? Well, they got evicted from their stadium for not paying property taxes. And what happened is the college, Arizona State, built a beautiful small rink right on the college campus. And guess who's there tonight? A bunch of young LA guys, probably dressed up to the nines, looking good, looking sharp, looking to go out there and have some fun. They're going to come out here and whoop the shit out of the Coyotes. But aside from that, road teams that are on their first of back-to-back days with no rest, moderate favorites. Moderate favorite defined as a favorite that's minus 200 or less off a win. Road team, first game of a back-to-back spot with no rest. Moderate favorite coming off a win, 65-26 straight up. 52-38 on the over. The average score, though, 3.7 to 2.7. I'm not going to lay the minus 1.5. I'm not going to take the plus 1.5 at that plus 210, albeit I wouldn't be mad at anybody that wants to see that absolute whoop the shit out of the Coyote spot here. The situation for the Coyotes is they're averaging 2 goals or less per game, one of the lowest in the NHL. And it's going to take more than 2 goals to beat the LA Kings. Only 2 teams have held the LA Kings to 2 goals this season. That's Colorado and Boston. Those are 2 top 4 teams in the NHL in terms of not allowing goals or goals not allowed. So you got a situation here that's just not a strong matchup for those Coyotes. I know a lot of people are looking at the numbers saying, I like the price, but do you really? I mean, at the end of the day, if the Coyotes were plus 300, would you feel a lot better about them? Sure you would. In this spot here, I just feel there's too much value on this Kings team. Arizona, 28, 40, and 14 last season. They are way overperforming their ability this current season here. And I think they're due for that regression spot. The other thing, if you want to get into the nitty gritty on the teams, the Kings roll 3 deep lineups. They've got 3 straight lines that are all capable of taking out any one of the players on that Arizona Coyote spot. What do you have on the Coyote side? You got Keller. You got Schmaltz. I mean, okay, those guys have 6 goals in 6 games. But again, they're only averaging 2 goals a game. So it's not a spot where they're going to get it done. Now they do have, and this is where I kind of talk about the depth. If you look at the second line for the Arizona Coyotes, Cooley's their center. He's got a ton of assists out there, but the only reason he's got assists is because he's playing on the top power play line. So you got a team that only has 1 line out there to produce. They're borrowing pieces from their next line to be the top power play spot. They're 25th in the NHL in scoring overall. They're on a 6-game losing streak as a home dog. And oh, by the way, when I talk about that depth and where this team's headed, their second line, including Cooley, Michelli, and Kerfoot for Arizona, have 0 goals this season. The only points that second line's generated are because Cooley's playing on the top power play spot, and the Kings are just too damn hot and aggressive to get the job done. So Kings for me at minus 132. I wouldn't be mad at anybody. It's an official lean for the show at minus 1.5 at plus 180. You guys want to go and get that Yotes money? God bless you. Good luck to you. But we'll come back on Monday and talk about that LA Kings and how they smacked them around. So that's my play on that spot as well. I like that LA Kings minus 132. That brings us to a close in the hockey card. We got 7 minutes left. We got 2 more spots to cover. We're going to get there and give you guys that time to get it done. College football for me, this show specifically, has been back and forth. I'm going to have a ton of plays that I launch for tomorrow's card on Saturday. But man, it's like I'm finding I'm 1-1. It seems like every time that there's a college football game. Now, during the week, that is. You're just trying to thread the needle ultimately on a spot where there's just not a lot to choose from. So slim pickings for me. I think this game constitutes a slim pickings as well. At least they have a game out there for people that want to watch football tonight. If we look at the cash flow, we've got, let me flip over here really quick, keep it rolling. We've got 56% of the bets, 71% of the cash on the Charlotte Niner side of things here. And plus 6.5 is where that number opened up. That was the look ahead number. It's down to 3.5s or 4s in some spots. If we look at the rest of the splits, we see that the total open at 49.5, 79% of the bets, 61% of the cash on the under. The unders moved to 46. And then if you look at the Charlotte money line side of things, this is where a lot of the cash is coming in. 22% of the bets, 53% of the money, the sharper, the bigger bets are coming in on that under. It's about a 28,000 ticket sample. So for the only game going for the night, that's going to have to be what it is. But the bigger bets are coming in and just taking that money line. It's moved from plus 180 to plus 148. I think when you see a situation like this and you see the movement in the numbers, when it's the only spot on the card, you're not getting like Joe Public with the NBA and the NHL out there. They're not the ones that are buying in the spot. I think it's truly a reflection of the sharp money that's going out there. Charlotte coming off that big East Carolina win on the road. This has got a game with bowl game implications all over it. FAU is 2-1 in the conference, but they're only getting 24 points a game on offense, and they're letting up 25 points a game on defense. Do the math. It's real simple. You got a team that's 120th in the run, 83rd in the pass, and they're playing mediocre schools down there. Not a recipe for a lot of success. Their passing team does have the 22nd pass rate offense. And because they pass the ball, FAU, because they're a pass-first oriented team, they do rank 30th in explosiveness on runs. So that's going to be situations where they get 10 or more yards on the ground off a play. And think about it. They pass a lot. Now you have to respect that passing game in the secondary. That's going to give you the opportunity to open up big runs. So they use the pass to open up the run from an FAU perspective. Last game, they only had 20 rushing yards and 142 passing yards. The thing I do like about FAU on this side is, they are more battle tested. They had games against Clemson and Illinois, so they stepped up in competition, where Charlotte, again, two quarterbacks, you kind of have two, you don't have one. We talked about that the other day. Their quarterbacks are alarmingly averaging 4 touchdowns or totals each have 4 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. That combines for 16 interceptions between those two dirtbags, and their differential on the team is -6 in the turnover differential. Somehow, they're only allowing 22 points in that configuration with a shit ton of turnovers. Now, Charlotte runs 26th highest rate in the game. So this is one of those situations where they run more than the other team's passing, but they're a pass or a run first team in Charlotte with 16th ranked highest college football in explosiveness in the run. 10 yards, gains of 10 or higher, 16th highest explosiveness team. So you got a team that runs a lot, and they're pretty damn good at it, and then when you look at the passing side of things, they rank way down at 113th in success rate. It's their defense that's 29th in their pass D and 42nd in the run D. So I think it's a battle here. I think what we see is probably more towards that under. We see a lower scoring game. My lean is to take the 4 points if you can get that out there. I would rather take the 4 points on the home team. What we don't see a lot in college football is that the dog is traveling on defense, or the defensive teams aren't traveling very well. And if you got the opportunity to take 4 points, you're over that key number of the field goal spot. I had to lock in there. Last game I'm going to talk to you guys about here. We're going to transition. It's the World Series. It's game number 1. Should be a lot of fun. We've got Eovaldi on the bump for the Texas Rangers, and we've got Zach Gallen over there on the other side for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Tough spot. This is going to be a really tough series. Tough series all around. If we look at the splits, we've got the total open at 8.5. It's still sitting at 8.5. We got 55% of the bets and 73% of the money on the under. As far as the Diamondbacks are concerned, we've got 70% of the bets on the Rangers, only 54% of the number or the money. So there are some bigger bets that are coming in on that Arizona side of things. But the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Vegas doesn't care. They opened them up at +125. They moved them to +143. My official play for this game is going to be the no-run first inning. I think this is I got a lot of action out there tonight, so I don't want to invest a ton into this game, but I'll look to live bet the spot here. A couple by the number spots for you guys. Eovaldi in the playoffs. The guy's 9-1 in the playoffs. His teams are winning 7.3 to 2.7 on average. When you're the first game 1 of a home team in the World Series, you're 12-7 straight up, but you're 10-6 on the run line. So those two numbers kind of correlated to me that you got Eovaldi kicking ass in the playoffs, and you got the home team in World Series game number 1 seems to have a decided advantage on the run line. Arizona this season, though, has a 3-1 advantage in the series against Texas. They played them 4 times. They won 3 of them. I think that's going to be a motivation spot for Texas. Now, Texas in the postseason, they're 10-2 on the run line. Also, Arizona 9-3 on the run line this postseason. So a battle of run line spots. But if you want to get aggressive, if you're looking to take a shot, there's something that I looked at here, and it was really around where does Vegas kind of show their vulnerability. I talked about the Eovaldi spot with the 9-1 number. They're winning on average by 4.5 runs. It's 7.3 to 2.7 in that 10-game sample for Eovaldi and the squads. Put those two numbers together, that's 10. The average number of 10 is being the runs that they're seeing there. Now, if you look at this number and you want to do a quick line read and try to kind of see where Vegas expects and shows their vulnerability, I'm just popping this up here so I can go through it with you guys. If you look at the alternate lines, I'm just using DK as the book in this case right now. I think the vulnerability shows between 10.5 and 11 on the total. It's a ton of over spots for Eovaldi in the playoffs. We know that Texas is capable of batting that ball out of the yard. And let's talk about this total. So we've got 8.5 is the number that's set out there at -110. At 9, it only moves up 15 cents. At 9.5, it moves up 20 cents. At 10, it moves up 25 cents. At 10.5, it moves up 20 cents. All those moves are measured in about the same. But if you go from 10.5 to 11, it moves up almost 75 cents on the dollar. That's where Vegas is saying, hey, we could see this game be 9, 10, 10.5, but we don't expect it to get past 11. They think 11 is going to be that kind of backstop number where they expect this game to end around maybe 10 runs total, 10.5 runs total. That correlates with that 7.3 to 2.7 in the Eovaldi spot. If you want to get aggressive, you want to get, something that's maybe a nice plus money spot out there, over 10 is plus 165, even 10.5 at plus 184. I wouldn't go any higher than that, though, because you're starting to see plus 245s on the over. Just a quick way that I kind of look at where these vulnerabilities come into play when it comes to totals. Now, a ton of people are saying this game goes under. I can't say any different. I think this is a situation where you got two aces on the bump. It's the World Series. It's game one. I just want to kind of see how these teams feel each other out before I start jumping into making a ton of plays. The one thing I do feel most confident in, though, is that we do see no runs in that first inning. It's minus 118. There is a boost out there on DK. DK was able to move that boost for me to a plus 115 spot for the no-run first inning. Play that I like, a play that I endorse, a play that I'm on already. That's the show, boys and girls. We are 7:01 p.m. We still got 100 people strong watching. Make sure you guys like and retweet for me. Get the message out there. Like the YouTube video. Please like that YouTube video. And be sure to throw your picks in the chat. I'll give you guys just a quick rundown and recap. We'll get out of here, and we'll have ourselves a Friday night. I hope you guys get that cash with me here. I started off the card. I got the Charlotte under 226.5 and the Durham over 10.5 rebounds. I got the Nuggets -5. I leaned to KCP 3 points over 1.5 and rebounds over 2.5. Rolling on down, I leaned to the Boston first half -4.5, but I ended up with the Jaylen Brown over 18.5 points with a lean on the over 25 plus in the ladder. One spot I didn't talk about that I just realized I messed out there. A late ad for me was Clint Capella's double-double at plus 190. Not an official play, just a lean. 7-2 in the double-double category for Capella when he's playing at home against the Knicks. Last game, he had 15 points, 13 rebounds. That was a double-double. They lost. He's going to have to step up and play even harder. The Chicago Bulls money line's a lean. The Derek Lively over 6.5 rebounds is a lean. Kawhi Leonard's over 2.5 threes is my favorite prop on the card. I leaned to the Kings money line. I leaned to the Kings over 237.5, and I leaned to De'Aaron Fox over 1.5 threes. I leaned to Markelle Fultz over 5.5 assists. But I did play that parlay Atlanta, Sacramento Kings, and Orlando Magic. Make sure you guys get on that with me. I like the Washington Capitals -125. I leaned the under in the Devils game. I took the San Jose under 6.5. I took the first period over in the Vancouver 1.5 goals in the first period. I took the LA Kings to slap around them Coyotes. I also leaned to that -1.5. I leaned to Charlotte's +4. I locked down the Nerfy. And I kind of just gave you guys a little rundown of where I would start to look at some of these adjusted numbers. Once we start to see a total around 11, I might start to live bet under that 11. So that's the show, boys and girls. We kicked off a great night last night. We're going to try to keep it rolling. Let's string together a couple of strong winning days in a row. We're in the black, and we're trying to stack. So I hope you guys stack with me. Shout out to everybody that showed up here. JPZ Nunya, North Ender, EQ, Nathan Cerna. There's my guy, Nick, and Earl Sports Bets out there. 10FB, I'm not I guess that's 10F Benny. All right, you got me there, man. I've been flying and running down the card. So appreciate everybody stopping. And Justin McAlvey with the Stacks POD. He likes that Diamondbacks first 5 under 4. Nathan Cerna, again, the whole gang showed up, you guys. I appreciate everybody dropping in here tonight. Please take an opportunity, share your plays on the YouTube comments. Toss them in there in the YouTube comments. Let's get some traction. Let's get some traffic. Let's get some attention. Shout out to Pub Sports Radio. Appreciate everybody being a part of the crew tonight. Let's get that cash. Let's become members if you're not already. $4.99 a month helps everybody a ton. Shout out to my guy T on the ones and twos. Did a great job putting this thing together for us tonight. And we will get back to you guys on Monday. We will recap the plays. In the meantime, look for me around Pub Sports Universe here this weekend. We got college football shows popping off tomorrow. We got Sunday Night Live, big game Sunday Night Live, and then Monday Night Live as well. Looking forward to cashing with you guys all weekend. In the meantime, protect your bankrolls, bet size appropriately, and enjoy your Friday nights. We be pumping!